one is a replica. And then we have that horizontal Saturn 1B over on the far side of the garden. That was the first rocket we actually designed to take people into space, and it is the baby brother of the Moon rocket that you'll see on your bus tours today. This is only roughly 2/3 as long and 20% of the power of what it took to get to the Moon. So that's a different kind of rocket, but we'll tell you some of the amazing things that we did, even with that smaller version of the Saturn. Now, with that much background, are we ready to start a tour? Let's do it. My name is John. I'm on staff here as a communicator, and it's my privilege to be your guide today. 1955, Cold War era, President Dwight Eisenhower announced that the United States would put up the first man-made satellite as part of an international science effort called the geophysical year. But that's not how it turned out. October 1957, the Soviet Union announced that they had Sputnik in orbit, and they told us where to turn on our shortwave radios so we could hear it go beep, beep, beep. That was its job, and the space race was beginning. Because only 3 months later, end of January 1958, we took a little Jupiter rocket like one with the UE on the side, removed the warhead, replaced it with that little black and white pencil point up top. That was the satellite, and it had been designed by an American physicist named James Van Allen. This is what President Eisenhower had talked about in 1955, but it took that long for us to get ready to put it up. Now, Van Allen's satellite was designed to identify hot areas of radiation captured in our magnetic field. He was convinced that radiation coming from space was being captured, and since it didn't bombard the surface of our planet, that was a major reason why life could exist here. We sent that satellite up into a long elliptical orbit, confirmed the theory, named the areas the Van Allen radiation belts, and then the batteries died. Now, even as a silent object orbiting, it stayed up for 11 years, which is not too bad for a first try. Nonetheless, this was the beginning of the space race, part of the Cold War era of competition between two very different ways of life. Now, we renamed that rocket Juno, and then we went on to the larger Jupiter, the one over here with the black NASA lettering on it. Renamed this one Juno 2. And with this, we put a probe down on the surface of the moon to help us understand conditions there, depth of dust, ability to hold weight, temperature, and so forth. And also, we had one more name change as we took this Thor Able directly behind me and renamed it Delta for space work. We used this for early communication satellites. One was not much more than a reinforced weather balloon with a reflective surface. And we put it up, a little puff of air from a bottle popped it out to full size in the near vacuum of space, out to 100 feet across, and we bounced live television signals off the surface to be received on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean for the first time. Live TV had gone to the United States, in this case to England, sending to all the cricket players over there part of a Chicago Cubs baseball game. That was the first thing we sent. About 2 years later, a much more sophisticated object went up. It was called Telstar, and it could receive signals, amplify, and rebroadcast. It was big news at the time. A British musical group called the Tornadoes actually wrote an instrumental number named Telstar. Maybe some of you remember it, but we brought it to America. It went to the top of the charts as the first British group to do that. This is significantly before better-known groups such as the Beatles made that transition to the American music scene. While we were working on that, we were also involved with animal experiments, wanting to see if monkeys and chimpanzees could survive takeoff and return before we tried it with people. Our chimps we trained on the ground with a little panel that had lights and switches. And when a light flashed, we trained the chimp to push the button, another light, another button. Then we took the panel and the chimp, put them in a capsule, and started them up through the atmosphere. When they got to that point, still in the atmosphere where they were experiencing 7 times the force of gravity, we started flashing the lights. And our thought was that if the chimp could pull his arm up and hit the right button, maybe we could train astronauts to do it too. With this experiment, we confirmed that our astronauts were going to be pilots and not just passengers on the way up. But as we were doing this, we got our next big embarrassment from the Soviets when in April of 1961, they announced to the world that Yuri Gagarin had gone up as the first human in space, had gone around and come home safely. Once again, they said, the Soviet Union and the communist system has done this for the world. Well, only 3 weeks later, we took a little Redstone rocket, like the one with the red United States on the side. We replaced the warhead with that one-person Mercury capsule, and we topped it off with that little red just-in-case escape rocket. Alan Shepard crawled in, and on the 5th of May, 1961, he was wafted out of the atmosphere, almost 300 miles out over the ocean, in a trip that lasted 15 minutes and turned him into America's first spaceman. We were cheering, and the Soviets congratulated us on another second-place finish. By this point, we realized that they were attempting to sell a product called communism by what they were doing in space. And so it became important for the United States to demonstrate that democracy and free enterprise could do these things as well or better. And so just 20 days after the Shepard